Hey everybody, we are at the top of the hour, so we're going to get started with our session today. Good day and welcome everybody to another Gimmal education session. My name is Marcia Shields and I'm part of our customer success team. Our goal for these sessions is the same. We're just trying to enhance your education and expertise with our Gimmal software. We are recording this session and we will share it after the event, and as well, it's going to be posted on our Gimmal YouTube site. Tim Butler is with me. He is our subject matter expert and we'll be talking about Gimmal Physical. Tim's going to be reviewing how the software can be configured to automatically generate pattern sequences. Tim, could you go ahead on the slide to the education area? Or the, sorry, yeah, thank you. So before we get started, I just wanted to bring to your attention that we are starting a Gimmal All-Star program for this year. This is basically our way of rewarding your efforts for attending these sessions and hopefully to make a little fun and amplify your experience. There's a few ways to earn points, which we will be tracking. And then at the end of each quarter, we'll tally those up and see who earned a Gimmal All-Star pin. So hope you have a little bit of fun with this. This lists out the 4 ways that you can earn some points, and I'll be tracking those. If you have any questions, please just let me know. Format for today's session will be the same. We're going to be doing about 15 to 20 minutes of product demonstration, followed by time for any questions you may have. If you do have questions, please post those in the Q&A section on your Zoom bar, and we'll get to those after. Before we officially begin, I'm going to launch just a quick poll for y'all, if you don't mind. This will help give us some feedback. Today's question is, where have you used or where would you like to use the sequencing feature? I'll keep that poll up for a bit, Tim, and let people answer that as they keep rolling in. There are a few. I think that's it, Tim. I'll hand things off to you to start the demo.
All right, good. Thanks, Marcia. Appreciate that. Let me jump over to the Gimmal Physical application and focus on our feature we're looking at here today, sequencing. Very, I guess I'll say up front, guys, very targeted piece of functionality here. We don't actually expect it to be widely adopted, but there are some that have requested it over the years, and more so some lately, some clients. So Gimmal has heard your voice and has added this feature in. It was available in 3.15.1 and also 3.15.2. It will be included in all the versions moving forward as far as we can see. Now, I want to walk you through a couple of use cases. Some of you are already probably familiar with what sequencing is. Others might be like, I have no idea what sequencing even is. So we'll try to give you a couple of real world examples. And as is the case most of the time nowadays, guys, with new features that we add to Gimmal Physical, they happen because the likes of you ask for them, right? We've been doing this a long time, but our best ideas always come from our clients. So please never be bashful or shy about offering those up. You're seeing the result of some of those requests here today with sequencing. Now I'm going to kind of show you the end from the beginning, so to speak, and then I'll come back and show you how all of this worked. I'm going to highlight both the Files tab and the Boxes tab. I think we'll start with Boxes, probably the more common use case that we're going to see sequencing used. And so I'm just going to do a quick query of the boxes that I have in the system here. Guys, where I really want to draw your attention is over here on this column that says Sequence. And that in conjunction with these other 2 columns, year and abbreviation. Here's the gist, at least use case 1, of what sequencing can do for you. Once you have sequencing enabled, you then can configure, and this is all under your control, you can configure Gimmal Physical to generate a unique ID of sorts that's based upon a combination of other fields. So in my demo example here, I've set my sequence up. I've said, hey, concerning boxes, I'd like some kind of ID independent from this box number. By the way, I'm just typing box number in there. Nothing magic there whatsoever, but the real magic is here under sequence. Gimmal Physical is auto-generating this sequence ID. And as is true of every field in Gimmal Physical, you could actually caption it any way you want. I've just left mine as sequence, but you could call it XYZ if you wanted to. But here's the underlying logic. We take a combination of fields, in this case, year and abbreviation. Abbreviation is the abbreviated code of the owning organization, LEG. And really what we're saying here is that, okay, starting in the calendar year 2025, when we create a box, in addition to all the metadata that gets put in, we want Gimmal Physical to auto-generate this unique sequence ID. And in this case, it's the year concatenated with the 3-letter abbreviation, and then a sequential number. In this case, just 3 zeros and a 1. And you can see over time what has happened is I created new boxes. I never had to enter this sequence value. Rather, Gimmal Physical auto-calculated it and auto-filled it for me based upon the logic, which I'll get to in a minute, show you how you configure all this. So if you extrapolate with this, guys, what this means, if I were to create a 2025 box for a different department, then that sequence would look something like 2025, let's just say financial, and FIN's the abbreviation. Then the box sequence there would be 2025 FIN 0001. So this sequence starts at 1 for whatever combination of fields you provide for your logic. In this case, the combination is year and abbreviation. So with that, let's just grab one of these guys. Let's create one more of these boxes. I said, let's create one more of these boxes. Here it comes any second now.
Real-time fun, Tim.
There we go. Yes, I knew you could do it. Apologies, I don't know what caused that delay there. I'm not even really going to take the time, guys, to fill in any of the other fields. In real life, right, you fill in all the other metadata. I will change the box numbers since that's one that is varying here. And I'll just go ahead and save this box, the 104. And when we come back now to the homepage grid, right, you'll notice here's that box I just created, and it simply created the next sequential value, in this case, the number 5. Now, let me back the story up a little bit so you're kind of seeing the end result here of how sequencing works once it's enabled and configured. Let me show you how, use case 1 here, how you configure it. Under admin, if you have architected your system so that it includes sequencing, you'll now see a new entry there under the admin page. And it looks kind of similar, guys, for those of you familiar with quick description construction. Sequencing looks kind of similar. It's almost the same idea. Really, all that's different, though, is you're going to see a couple of additional properties up here. Now, one caveat you need to be aware of: if you are going to use sequencing and you want to base it upon other business fields, again, in my case, it was the organizational abbreviation and the year, you can only base the sequencing logic upon fields that are required, right? Because we're auto-calculating these sequential values, and we can't have a bunch of blanks or nulls embedded within. So you are limited that the data fields must be required. So the list you're seeing here is just those fields that are required. And down below, similar to what you would see with quick description, I configured the system here. So just say, hey, you know what? Make the sequential value look like the year, the 3-letter abbreviation, and then that sequential number. One other point I'll make right now is you can also specify how many zeros you want in that sequential number. In my case, I listed 3. We'll come back to sequence only in just a moment with our use case number 2. But this is use case number 1, guys, on any tab of the application based upon some combination of business logic. You can now start sequential values starting at 1 based upon whatever combo of fields you have configured, and that configuration happens right here. All right, use case number 1. Use case number 2, same basic idea, which I'll walk you through the configuration in a moment. But again, here on the Files tab, let me show you kind of the end from the beginning. Now, on the Files tab, I have a sequential field. In this case, I just captioned it as position. It's still a sequence field. I just changed the caption of the field. And this use case, guys, comes out of sort of an older school of thought that a lot of folks still love to do. And it's why we've offered this now in later versions of Gimmal Physical. And it's really based upon this. The primary use case here is that as you put files into a box, we'd like to have a position number of where they are within the box. The big benefit, of course, being when you've got to now go pull a file out of a box or return a file to a box, rather than having to kind of thumb through 50 files in the box to figure out where this file goes or where you're going to pull it from. This positional value can be an aid to you to quickly get to the right spot in the box. Now, there's other less technical ways to make that happen, but this is kind of a cool feature. If you want that relative position of the file in the box, we can now calculate that automatically for you. So as a couple quick examples here, let's jump. You'll notice all three of these files are in box 100. So let's use that convenience link there and jump over to box 100. And as I think most of you are aware, you can create files from a couple of different perspectives. One is from the box perspective, right? If I scroll down here just a bit, so here's my box with the 3 files within. I've got a nice little convenience link here where I can simply click on create and go ahead, and this, we'll call this our 4th file in the box. And again, I won't take the time to fill in all these fields here. Let's go ahead and save this guy. So I'm creating this file directly in the box. So notice now when I come back to my file homepage grid, it has automatically calculated the next sequential or positional value for this file in the box. It just did that automatically. There is another way, of course, to get files created, and that's directly from the files, not starting at the box. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and click the create button here. And this guy, I'm just going to call it file number 5. Oops, not like that. Number 5. I know I can do this. I used to be able to type. Okay, number 5. All right. Again, it won't take the time to fill in all the other fields here, but in this case, I'm creating a file, but he's not directly in the box. Let's go ahead and save the creation of this file. When I come back now, notice I've got those 4 that were in the box because they started their lives there, but this guy did not. What's nice here, however, guys, is this positional sequencing feature also works when you then transfer that file into a box. Let's grab this file. Let's transfer him into the box. I'm going to use my convenience feature there and transfer him. So whether you create the file directly in the box or whether you, after the fact, transfer it in, the logic will be able to handle either use case so that you get that sequential positional value within the box. One more time, guys, let's come back to the configuration capabilities here. And this time, let me show you how we configure this for the Files tab. Same basic idea, but a couple of big caveats here. For that second use case, you will want to check sequence only. Again, you can choose the number of zeros you want, but this is critical. If you want that positional sequence functionality, you do have to choose home location as the field that we will base that sequential value upon. So in the end, 2 different use cases. You guys, once you become familiar with this particular piece of functionality, you might invent some new ones, which we would love to hear. That would be great. But these are the 2 we've seen coming in over the recent years for clients asking for that auto calculation of a sequential value. With that, I think that's all we want to cover today, guys. Not quite the fast-paced, extended user session we usually have here, or educational session. Let me come back to Marcia and open the floor for questions.
Yeah, good stuff, Tim. Always useful information. We do have a few questions, so I will start with the first. The first one is, can the sequence be based upon the current data entry session only rather than across time?
All right, yeah, kind of a tricky little question there, and the quick answer is no, but let me explain. These sequential values, guys, that we just did at both use cases, they are based upon all time. That is the number, regardless of how many times you log out and log back in, they will continue to count from where they are. There is one particular use case that we're aware of that has been requested by a client, that these sequential values will only calculate for the given data entry session. And the next time you log in, it will start over again at the number one. We're not supporting that. We may support that in the future, but right now it's not part of the sequential offering that we're making.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Another question we have is, if I change the sequence pattern logic, will it affect all current records?
Yeah, and the answer is no. So let me come back to the admin. When we're talking here about the pattern logic, what we're talking about here is which fields you choose, right? So if later on, after I've been using it for a while, I decide I want to add another data element in here, that's not going to retrofit all of your sequences. In the end, what that really means is, guys, if you're going to use sequencing, get it right initially. Don't come in after the fact. It turns out you can actually change it, but then you'd have to do a lot of rigmarole to make the previous boxes have their sequence reflect this new pattern. So just don't do that unless absolutely necessary.
Okay. We have one more, unless people have others. Remember, you can post these in the Q&A area. Question is, what happens if I delete a sequence file in a box?
Yeah, great question. So let's come back over there and look at the Files tab one more time. If you were to take one of these files and either delete the file or transfer it to a different box or transfer it to a place that as its home location as shelf, for example, we're not going to fill in that gap. So if I move number 3 and it goes elsewhere, and when I say goes elsewhere, it means its home location changes, then you will forever lose number 3. The next one that you create would wind up being position 6. We're not going to auto adjust 5 and 4 and notch them down 1, and we're not going to backfill 3. If you lose that sequential value, it is gone. You won't be able to get it back.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Tim. A couple more questions just rolled in. So the first one is, what version of Gimmal is this? And this person's on 3.10.
Yeah, it's not 3.10. It was first available in 3.15.1. We actually tweaked it a little bit in 3.15.2. So really 3.15.2 and forward, it's going to feature exactly the way you see here. So yeah, if you're on 3.10, you will need to upgrade. And I do want to mention here, guys, it does require you to communicate to Gimmal Client Success that you want sequencing. That is, you will not find any place in the admin menu that lets you turn sequencing on. Rather, Gimmal has to turn it on for you. Once it's turned on, then you'll have this page here where you can configure exactly the logic beneath the sequencing feature itself. So whoever asked that question, if you're in 3.10, you're like, man, I want this. When you upgrade, tell Client Success, hey, I want the sequencing stuff that Tim talked about.
Okay. Another question, Tim, is, does the sequence number become a searchable field?
It does actually, and I think, let me go to the boxes tab. Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. You can configure the quick search any way you want, but the quick answer is yes. It's just one more field now. You can see here, I put it in my quick search, and let's do a quick test. I'm going to search by the number 4 within sequence. It acts like all the other fields now, and sure enough, it only brings back the sequence where there was a number 4 within.
Okay, going once, going twice. Looks like no more questions. But I did want to report back on our poll question we had, which I thought was interesting. Our poll question today was, where have you used or where would you like to use the sequencing feature? Overwhelming majority of 70% says box numbers. So just thought I'd share that out. Second runner-up is file numbers with 20%. So thank you all for taking part of that poll. And thanks, Tim, for teeing this up. This is perfect. So that's our session today, but I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of our upcoming sessions for Q1. Emails have gone out. Reminder emails will go out the week before, just like for this one. You're welcome to join any session, even if you're not currently utilizing that product. You're more than welcome to come and learn about it. We also have other education areas that you're welcome to explore through our tech tips, self-service tutorial videos, and certainly our online documentation. So thank you all again for joining today. If you want to see any sessions from past, please go to our YouTube page at Gimmal Solutions, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much.